Jack Klugman was one of those rare actors who never pretended to be anyone but himself. What you saw on screen was the same man you'd meet in real life, blunt, passionate, and impossible to push around. But after The Odd Couple ended, there was one woman he swore he would never work with again. For years, people chalked it up to Hollywood gossip. But when you look closely at interviews, timelines, and the quieter moments surrounding the show, it begins to feel like a real fallout that everyone tried to keep under wraps. Klugman wasn't a man who held grudges for no reason. His refusal to ever work with her again wasn't about money. Some believed it was rooted in loyalty. Others thought it stemmed from broken promises, scenes that were cut, and bruised egos once the series wrapped. Whatever happened, it was enough to create a permanent divide. By the time the story was fully told, you could see a side of Jack Klugman that very few people had ever really known. Long before he became famous, Klugman had to claw his way up through hardship and rejection. Growing up in Philadelphia during the Great Depression, he learned toughness early. His father died young, his mother worked endlessly to keep the family going, and Klugman discovered that survival demanded relentless persistence. He carried that determination with him into acting, and it became a defining part of him. When he finally found his footing on stage, critics called him rough around the edges, but impossible not to watch him that rawness would become his trademark by the late 1960s. He had appeared in everything from The Twilight Zone to Broadway, but it was The Odd Couple that made him a star. As Oscar Madison, the messy, loud, quick-tempered sportswriter Klugman tapped into something deeply relatable. He was the everyman who said exactly what he meant, unpolished and sincere, and audiences trusted him instantly. Off-camera, he was much the same, straightforward, loyal, and stubborn in ways that could be both admirable and challenging. Meanwhile, his personal life was far more complicated than his easy sitcom charm. He married actress Brett Summers in 1953. Their relationship was passionate, fiery, and often turbulent. Summers eventually played his ex-wife Blanche on The Odd Couple, a casting choice that mirrored their real-life friction almost too perfectly. Viewers loved watching them spar, but insiders said the tension sometimes lingered long after filming stopped. Though they separated in the mid-1970s, they never divorced. And despite the distance, they remained strangely connected until her death in 2007. Klugman surrounded himself with strong, talented women actresses, writers, producers, and he respected them deeply as long as he felt they respected the craft. But when he believed someone wasn't giving their all, he could turn cold fast. Friends said he had a switch. The same intensity that made him brilliant could also make him impossible. He fiercely protected his reputation and the people he trusted. That intensity and loyalty later fueled some of his most talked-about disputes. And it was that same fire that may have sparked the secret rift that followed The Odd Couple. For a man like Klugman, cutting someone out wasn't about ego. It meant something had gone seriously wrong. When The Odd Couple ended in 1975, it marked the conclusion of one of television's greatest comedic partnerships and the beginning of one of Hollywood's quietest, most complicated feuds. On screen, Klugman and Tony Randall were effortless together. Their chemistry so natural, viewers assumed they were best friends off-screen. Their real-life bond was deep, but not without tension. Both were perfectionists. Klugman ruled by instinct while Randall demanded precision. Their differences somehow worked beautifully on television. But once the show wrapped, not everyone walked away happy. During the final season, the set grew increasingly tense. Ratings were slipping, budgets tightening, and scripts were being revised faster than anyone could memorize them. Klugman, always vocal about maintaining quality, grew frustrated with how the show was being run. He wanted more creative control, more influence over the characters and the dialogue. Some respected him for it. Others resented him. One insider later said, "Jack could be your best friend or your worst nightmare. It all depended on whether he thought you were doing your job." Quiet rumors also whispered that one of his female co-stars, someone he had once publicly praised, crossed a line with him during those final months, creating a rift that never healed. Some said the fallout stemmed from a contract dispute. Others whispered that a private disagreement on set became personal. Nothing was ever confirmed, but the pattern was unmistakable. When The Odd Couple ended, she was gone from Jack Klugman's world, completely no collaborations. No cameos on Quincy, M.E., nothing at all. It was as if she had vanished from his professional life overnight. Klugman, meanwhile, moved forward quickly. In 1976, he landed what became his next defining role in Quincy. Me, playing a gruff but compassionate medical examiner who pushed for justice at any cost. The show was more serious, more grounded, and it gave him something The Odd Couple no longer could control. He was deeply involved in scripts, story direction, and the overall tone. He fought the network on censorship, championed social issues, and helped turn the series into one of television's quiet revolutions. For him, it felt like vindication. He had left behind the chaos of sitcom life and proved he could lead a dramatic show entirely on his own terms. But success brought shadows. People began noticing how selective he had become about the people he worked with. Reunions with former co-stars were rare. Even when nostalgia projects came up, Klugman remained distant. To casual observers, it looked like professionalism. To those who knew him, it looked like something much deeper. Someone still carrying the weight of something that went wrong on The Odd Couple. While the world kept laughing at reruns, Klugman quietly built a wall that lasted the rest of his career. And that wall might hold the answer to why he never worked with her again. It wasn't pride or vanity, it traced back to the one thing Klugman valued more than fame: respect. Everyone in Hollywood knew one thing about Jack Klugman: he didn't bend when it came to integrity. If he believed in something, he fought for it, whether that meant arguing with producers, challenging directors, or standing his ground against an entire network. That reputation followed him everywhere. It earned him immense respect, but it also left behind a trail of pointed refusals that became part of his legend. One of the most famous examples happened during the production of Quincy. In one episode, Klugman outright refused to appear because he believed the script betrayed the character. He thought it was shallow, written just to fill airtime, and he wouldn't be part of it. Instead of showing up for filming, he stayed home. The studio scrambled to rewrite the entire episode without him. Most actors would have been replaced for that kind of defiance, but Klugman wasn't most actors. By then, his performance was the foundation of the show, and the network knew it. His creative stubbornness wasn't new. During The Odd Couple years, he often argued with writers over dialogue, insisting that Oscar Madison had to sound real. He didn't want canned jokes or neat, unrealistic resolutions. He wanted authenticity. If someone tried to push through a line he thought was wrong, he would stop production on the spot. Crew members remembered him pacing, cigarette in hand, muttering, "Oscar wouldn't say it like that." Sometimes it took hours to get it right, but when they did, it worked. Because he was usually right. His refusals weren't limited to scripts, they extended to people. Klugman had an unwritten rule. If someone broke his trust, there were no second chances. It wasn't anger, it was principle. He'd seen too many careers fractured by false promises and fake smiles. In one interview, when asked if he believed in forgiveness in Hollywood, he laughed and said, "I believe in respect. Forgiveness is for saints." Summed him up perfectly. Raw, truthful, some wind-filtered. So when rumors surfaced that there was one actress he would never work with again, it didn't seem out of character. Fans were shocked. Those who'd seen him behind the scenes weren't. If he felt betrayed, if he thought someone had taken advantage of his loyalty or undermined his work, he would walk away and never look back. No public argument, no dramatic showdown, just silence. Silence, in his world, said infinitely more than words. That silence is what made the alleged rift with her so compelling. There were no statements, no denials, no explanations, just a total absence of collaboration that felt intentional. And in Hollywood, deliberate silence is often louder than any headline. To understand who Klugman may have refused to work with again, you have to return to the set of The Odd Couple, a place filled with laughter on camera and quiet tension when the lights went off. Although the show centered on Klugman and Tony Randall, several women played key recurring characters. The most prominent was Brett Summers, who portrayed Oscar Madison's ex-wife. Blanche Dot, the chemistry between Klugman and Summers was unmistakable, not only because they were married in real life, but because their real relationship often mirrored their characters' playful resentment. Audiences loved it, producers loved it, but to those close to them, their scenes sometimes cut too close to reality. Their marriage was already strained before the show began, and working together didn't exactly ease the tension, so they separated in the mid-1970s, though they never divorced. In later interviews, Summers would joke that the two of them were better at playing ex-spouses than being real ones. To audiences, Brett Summers' jokes sounded funny. To the people who actually knew her and Jack Klugman, they sounded like truth disguised with a smile. That is why many believe she was Brett Summers. After The Odd Couple ended, Klugman and Summers never worked together again, not even when chances appeared. During the height of Quincy ME, she was still active in television and theater. Yet their careers never overlapped again. Even when The Odd Couple was revived for specials or reunion segments, they appeared separately. For two people once seen as inseparable, that silence was impossible to ignore. But Summers isn't the only possible her. Some believe it might have been another recurring actress from the show, someone who clashed with Klugman behind the scenes over lines, blocking, or direction. There were whispers about heated arguments between him and certain guest stars, though nothing was ever confirmed. Hollywood in the 1970s was an expert at burying internal conflicts. The industry protected its stars, and rumors rarely reached the public unless they became too large to hide. Another theory suggests it could have been someone behind the scenes, a producer's assistant or a member of the writing staff, someone involved in a dispute over scheduling or creative control. Klugman had become heavily involved in the production as the show went on. If someone contradicted or undermined him, especially someone he trusted, that could be enough for him to walk away for good. He had almost no tolerance for betrayal, even minor forms. Still, the Brett Summers theory feels strongest. Their relationship was complicated, full of laughter, chemistry, conflict, and eventually deep, lingering tension. When they finally separated, Klugman didn't badmouth her, but he didn't say much about her at all. His silence, once again, felt deliberate. It wasn't bitterness, it was closure on his terms. And as his career moved forward, this pattern repeated. He could be warm, generous, and fiercely loyal. But once he shut a chapter in his life, he rarely reopened it. The woman he refused to work with again may have represented more than a fractured working relationship, may have been the final thread connecting him to a part of his life he no longer wanted to revisit. But what could cause that kind of finality? Why would a man known for loyalty and heart cut someone off so completely? The answer likely lies in those final months of The Odd Couple. When tensions were high and the boundaries Klugman lived by were tested, Jack Klugman's legacy is one of remarkable success, personal challenge, and lasting influence. His work on The Odd Couple and Quincy Me made him a beloved figure in television history. Fans and critics respected him not only for his talent, but also for his toughness. His battle against throat cancer and his unwavering determination to keep acting made him an inspiration. He became a symbol of resilience, someone who refused to be defeated by circumstance. Despite that success, his life was never without controversy or mystery. Rumors about his personal life, his tense relationship with Summers, and other behind-the-scenes conflicts added layers to the public's understanding of him. These stories made him feel more human, not just a TV icon, but someone with flaws, struggles, and complicated relationships like anyone else. In recent years, new interviews and personal recollections have offered a clearer picture. His son and close friends have shared memories of a man who was funny, generous, kind, and sometimes incredibly stubborn. These glimpses behind the curtain help fans understand the real Jack Klugman in a way they couldn't during his lifetime. Today, audiences still appreciate his performances. Whether as Oscar Madsen or Dr. Quincy, he delivered a unique mix of intensity, humor, and natural authenticity. New generations discover his shows through reruns and streaming, finding that his acting still feels fresh and timeless. His influence continues through the many actors he inspired. His ability to adapt, especially after illness affected his voice, showed others the power of perseverance. He proved that incredible things can happen when talent is paired with grit. While certain mysteries and rumors remain part of the conversation, most people remember Jack Klugman for the characters he brought to life and the strength he showed in the face of adversity. His story is a reminder that behind every well-loved performer is a complex human being with battles, victories, and secrets of their own. In the end, his legacy is defined by talent, determination, and the respect he earned through a lifetime of uncompromising honesty. Fans in television, historians continue to celebrate Jack Klugman not just as the funny, rumpled half of the Odd Couple, but as a true television legend who refused to quit even when life grew difficult. Still, not everyone accepts the idea that he and Brett Somers ended things with bad blood. There's no definitive interview, no taped confession, no moment where Klugman openly stated he refused to work with her again. In truth, he rarely spoke about her at all. And when he did, his words carried an odd blend of warmth and distance. He once said, "We never really divorced, we just stopped being together." Those who were close to him have echoed that sentiment. Their split, they claimed, wasn't rooted in anger, it was about peace. Klugman battled throat cancer later in life, and as his health changed, so did his priorities. Television evolved, the industry shifted, and he and Somers drifted into separate careers. Perhaps they'd simply said everything they were ever going to say, both on screen and off. Fans, however, love a story with tension. They watched two exes turn their real-life fractures into comedic gold. And when the cameras went dark, they connected the dots themselves. Over time, speculation became rumor, rumor became legend, and legend hardened into truth. What can't be denied is that their chemistry, messy, tangled, and magnetic, left a lasting impression on television history. Maybe Klugman didn't refuse to work with her. Maybe he simply understood that some partnerships, no matter how iconic, can't be recreated without reopening old wounds. And that leads to the bigger question. What does all of this really tell us about Jack Klugman? We're left with stories, hints of friction, whispers of refusals, but no clear answers. There's evidence that he drew a boundary after The Odd Couple, but little explaining why. And perhaps that silence was intentional. Klugman was someone who fought fiercely for control of his craft, his image, and his peace of mind. When something crossed the lines he drew for himself, he didn't argue publicly or stage dramatic exits. He simply stepped away. Quietly. Permanently. That silence is part of what keeps the mystery alive. Fans still debate. Was it heartbreak? Ego? Fatigue from living out a relationship in front of millions? Or was it just the natural ending of a chapter that had already run its course? The real reason may never be known. But the echoes of those choices linger every time Oscar and Blanche trade their sharp, funny lines on screen. So now it's your turn. What do you think really happened between Jack Klugman and her? Share your theory, or see if you can spot moments in their Odd Couple scenes that hint at a story behind the laughs. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this. After all, sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction.